Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Today we're starting off down here in the end in our little kind of under the end island base, but this is not where we're going to spend our time because frankly I'm a little bit sick of looking at the end. I'm sick of looking at obsidian. Today we are going to go and do another farm, and this is a farm I've been kind of working up to for a little while, and I've been farming some stuff manually that I figured we could farm automatically, but it took me a little bit of time to figure out exactly how. And today, we're going to go to the Nether, and we are going to farm ourselves some ghast tiers. Not only that, but this farm will also provide us with a pretty hefty supply of magma cream as well. And as you'll see in here, I've got myself almost 3 stacks of ghast tiers from manually hunting ghasts down. This is going to provide a whole lot more. It's also going to mean we finally get to make use of a whole bunch of the netherrack that I've gathered, and also probably a fair amount of wither roses. I'm not certain quite how many we have left. It looks like we only have a few stacks. 5 stacks should be enough to get us started, but we're definitely going to have to make another trip to the wither rose farm in the near future to gather a few more, because a high quantity of wither roses here is going to be pretty much essential. While I'm here, I'm also going to grab a light source block, and I don't know if I want to use sea lanterns really, because they don't look all that great next to netherrack in the nether. I think we will need some glowstone for this, and luckily we have a decent amount of that, and I'm pretty sure we can trade that from some of our villagers, so we can always grab a bit more if we need it. We're going to need a hopper minecart, some hoppers, a chest, and I think I'll also go and buy some glass using all of this emerald, because I have a feeling we will need a lot of transparent blocks here as well. Alright, that should be most of the materials we need to get this farm started. I'm going to grab some more scaffolding, I'm going to grab the box of wither roses, and meet me on the nether roof. Hey folks, welcome back. So here we are on the nether roof, and I think I'm going to try and get as far away as I possibly can from my... Well, not as far away as I possibly can, that's a very long distance, but about 128 blocks away from the outer perimeter of my gold farm, because in order to get the best spawn rates up here on the nether roof, we are going to want to AFK pretty high up in the world to make sure nothing spawns in the nether down below, and for that we will need to make sure that we are 128 blocks away from the edge of the gold farm so that no zombie pigmen spawn as a result. Now let's see, where are we at? That right there is about the edge, that's about Z52, so we want to head to about Z200, I guess, in this direction. Alright, that seems about good enough. We can kind of see the gold farm lurking in the mist in the distance, but that should be far enough away that no zombie pigmen would spawn in the farm if I ended up AFKing at build height, which is what we ideally want to do to make sure that this farm functions. Now, to get the supplies started here, what we're going to be doing is building large strips of 4-block wide netherrack, and then putting light sources in between them in the form of this glowstone. And the reason for the 4 wide strips and then the glowstone is because zombie pigmen will actually spawn up to and including a light level of 11. But by putting strips of glowstone either side of the netherrack here, what we're looking at is a light level that only gets down to 12 and doesn't dip below that. So that's going to be the ideal spawning location for anything which is not a zombie pigman. In this case, the only mobs that will be spawning up here will be ghasts and magma cubes, and that is what we want to isolate by building this farm here. Magma cubes need about the same spawnable space as slime because they can spawn in 3 different sizes, and ghasts need a 5x5x4 space to spawn. Actually 5x4x5 because the y-axis is usually mentioned in the middle, but that's basically what we need. We need 5x5 on the footprint, and then 4 blocks high is what they need to be able to spawn. So if we start building a platform like this, we should be able to get some ghasts to spawn on here. Once again, we're going to be using wither roses to kill them because ghasts will spawn inside of wither roses, and while we can't put wither roses on the glowstone, the ghasts hitbox is actually quite large, and it's going to overlap onto a neighboring block even if they ended up spawning on the glowstone, which I don't believe they can because glowstone is a transparent block, but that should not block them from spawning here. You don't have to have, like, entirely solid blocks within that 5x5 footprint. They actually spawn on a randomly assigned block. It just means that the area has to be clear of any obstructions, which it will be, with the exception of wither roses, which don't technically count as an obstruction. Now, it has just occurred to me that I was building this just flat against the nether roof, and I actually want to build it a couple of blocks up because we need to set up a rail system down here that's going to be collecting all of the drops from this farm with a hopper minecart, and we wouldn't be able to do that without breaking bedrock otherwise. So I'm going to move this a couple of blocks up. I'm also going to return to the overworld because I don't seem to have brought the shulker box that had all of the rails in. So just like previous times we set up a rail sections like this is 16 blocks long with a power source roughly in the middle so that it can transfer power all the way to this section at the end here where the hopper minecart is going to be rebounding off a solid block. I think the glass block there should work. If not, then we can put a solid block above it and just move the hoppers around slightly, and that's going to travel around this entire section here and then come to a stop there and should hopefully rebound and make its way back to this row of hoppers to deposit anything it's captured into the chests. And we're going to build these glass walls up from here. We're going to place the netherrack in over the top with netherrack in these middle 4 blocks like so, and then the glowstone tracks on either sides. Unlike zombie pigmen, ghasts and magma cubes will spawn in any light level, so hopefully this should be enough to keep those mobs and only those mobs spawning in this farm. The majority of the spawn attempts in the nether, though, when it tries to spawn hostile mobs, are going to be pigmen, or at least the pigmen contribute to the hostile mob cap even though they are technically neutral the rest of the time. So it is going to be a little bit slow up here. In fact, to get the best rates for this, it would have to be something like the Enderman farm where we built it at the bottom of the world. Unfortunately, the bottom of the world in the nether in a standard Minecraft world is going to be made primarily of lava lakes and then a large layer of netherrack. So in future, we could build a super efficient one of these, but we would have to drain an entire lava lake in order to do it. And considering that we already have some pretty big projects on our hands right now with taking down the netherrack and all of the terrain around that nether fortress farm for wither skeletons, and the fact that I've just spent a lot of time digging out all of the obsidian from half of the towers in the end, I kind of feel like taking it easy for a bit and just going with a moderately efficient farm right now. I recommend bringing all of the materials you can to this farm before you start working on it, though, because naturally, if anything spawns up on the nether roof during building this, you are going to have some problems on your hands, potentially dealing with ghasts and magma cubes coming to attack you. So I really feel like it's a good idea to try and get the majority of the materials ahead of time. We don't have to cover the entire roof here with glass, though, because the ghasts won't be able to get out if we build it in a sort of grid around here. They won't be able to fly up through the glass the majority of times, so we're probably going to be able to conserve glass that way and just build it occasionally here and there, maybe like 2 blocks apart like this, something like that. A grid like that should suffice. And resources like scaffolding actually make grids like this nice and easy to build. And don't worry about the ghast noises you're hearing right now. Those are down below the nether ceiling, which is why, as I said, we're going to have to make our AFK spot as high as possible in the nether roof, just so that we can make sure that only the area of this farm is loaded as spawnable terrain. The glass wall around the outside here is mostly to prevent the magma cubes from jumping out. Occasionally a ghast might be able to wriggle its way out from underneath these glass blocks, but they don't tend to move sideways all that much, so we don't need to worry too much about them. The magma cubes are the real problem there, and they will bounce around like slime, and they might not take as much damage as they need to before they leave this area. They might also try and pathfind to blocks outside of the farm, so it's usually probably a good idea to have a row of netherrack around the outside of the farm, as long as it's within acceptable range of a light source, so that it's not going to spawn zombie pigmen. But in this case, I'm not going to worry too much about that. The majority of the time they will just bounce back in towards the wither roses when their random pathfinding just kind of takes effect, and they'll start to go wherever. But this farm is going to basically be a series of these strips of netherrack coated with wither roses and stretching pretty big, I think. I think we're going to need to make a large area of the farm here to guarantee a decent amount of spawns up here, considering that we are halfway to the top of the world. We're not going to be getting the most efficient spawns imaginable. So I'm going to go ahead and build out this farm as best I can. I'm going to go and AFK at the Wither Rose farm to get a few more of those for this farm here, and then we're going to come back and hopefully we'll be able to see this farm in action. And just a short time later, we are looking at one completed ghast farm, or at least a section of a completed ghast farm. If we wanted to go bigger than this, we absolutely could. But as it is, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different segments here, all running with individual minecart hoppers, mainly because if a ghast tier drops around here, I want it retrieved as quickly as possible and put into this system of hoppers, which is running all the way down to this collection chest at the end here. And I haven't really AFK'd at this for very long. I was just up at the top of that scaffold, just looking down at it, checking that the farm was working. maybe for about, 25 minutes to half an hour, and we got this amount of stuff. We got over a stack of gunpowder, 38 ghast tears, and 27 magma creams. So magma cubes are spawning in here as well, at all sorts of sizes, and are all dying pretty quickly. I haven't noticed any of them getting stuck on the edges, which may even be because they don't like pathfinding to bedrock specifically, although I don't know anything much about that. But basically, bedrock, the reason the stuff doesn't spawn up here is that bedrock basically follows the same rules as transparent blocks do, like glass or leaves or something like that. Beacon beams can pass through bedrock, and bedrock is not a spawnable block. Therefore, I think it even lets light through, although I'm not sure if that's just on Bedrock Edition Minecraft or if it's on Java Edition as well. But basically, yeah, bedrock is, for all intents and purposes, a transparent block with an opaque texture, and is completely unbreakable, of course, but it doesn't spawn anything on it. And so that's why we're not getting any random spawns around here while we're up on the roof of the Nether, and that may even be why magma cubes aren't trying to pathfind out of the farm and getting stuck to these glowstone strips on the site. But even so, they do bounce around a whole bunch and they end up dying pretty quickly. The ghasts make a terrifying noise, of course, because they take damage before they die, and ghasts do make one heck of a noise when they are damaged, as opposed to their death sound, which is relatively chill. You can hear them a little bit right now because we are down low at the bottom of the nether kind of ceiling here, but if I head up to the top here, we'll be able to spend a little bit of time looking at this farm in action. And then I think for the last portion of this video, I actually want to AFK up here for about an hour so we can do, roughly speaking, a rate test of the farm. And there we go, the farm is already working. So where we are right now, we are basically at the top of the nether roof. We're at Y256 at the top of the scaffolding tower, but because the platform here is a little bit above the nether roof, it is still within that 128 block spawning radius. It might even be the case that we could come down a couple of blocks here for the optimal spawning distance, just to make sure that we're covering the corners of the farm as well, because remember, the radius that stuff spawns around the player is more like a sphere than it is a square. So, if we get a little bit closer, then we should get the full radius of the farm in. And can you hear that noise? What an awful, awful noise. But hey, that's going to be ghasts dying automatically down there, and their ghast tears being collected as drops. As you can see, the farm is not like churning out ghasts. It's not constant. Occasionally you will see one or two of them spawning at the same time or just after one another, but for the most part, the farm is relatively quiet and then ear-splittingly loud shortly afterwards. And I don't know how much difference it really makes, but the whole reason we built that platform down on the floor and we're AFKing at this height instead of, having the gold farm kind of build set up like that and AFKing 23 blocks below it is because I'm fairly certain that the spawn rates of ghasts are going to be improved the further down in the world you go. And I don't know if it makes that much of a difference when you're at this height already. The difference between Y128 and Y256 might not be all that much, because the difference between Y0 and Y1 actually makes a lot of difference for stuff like the Enderman farm that we built in the end. But the fact is, we are able to look down on this farm from build height and have nothing else spawn in the nether below, while here on the nether roof, as you can see, we're occasionally getting ghasts appearing one after the other. And I think the only thing we could do to improve this really is to build out a larger space for the farm, just to maximize the potential spawning area of ghasts, which could mean building another couple of platforms there, and having an AFK platform in the middle. But it all depends on how much we feel like spending resources on this, because this took a fair amount of resources to pull off. The Wither Roses are a great means of disposing of ghasts. We could potentially thin these out a little bit and just alternate every other one. I think that would still kill the magma cubes pretty quickly as well if we wanted to save on Wither Roses, but the main thing is just being able to AFK for them at that Wither Rose farm that we built recently, so they are not so much of a problem. We have iron farms for things like the minecart and the minecart hoppers. The rails can pretty much take care of themselves thanks to the gold farm, and we can buy redstone from villagers if we want to. The main thing is just the return on the investment that we get, and let's see, we have actually gathered a handful more ghast tears and a little bit more gunpowder since then. I think what we're going to do is try and benchmark this farm and see exactly how fast it's going to be if we give it maybe an hour to generate ghast tears. So I'm going to stand at the top of this scaffolding, we're going to go AFK for a little bit, and when we come back, we'll see how many ghast tears we have. Okay, the timer just went off. Let's head down here and... Oh, it looks like we have one more ghast still dying in the farm, but from there I think we should have a pretty accurate picture of what this farm module is capable of, and if we really need to make any more, let's take a look. Okay, so we are close to a stack of ghast tears. We have more than a stack of magma cream. That's actually a pretty good magma cream farm, and a stack and a bit of gunpowder. So combined with what we got already... That is over 100 ghast tears I got today from this one farm. I'm very, very happy with that, folks. I am really happy we ended up building this because this is going to save it a little bit of time that I was spending going around killing ghasts manually in the nether whenever I saw them. And obviously we've been doing a lot of work in the nether lately, so I did spend a fair amount of time just taking care of ghasts in the distance to get them out of the way, and now I can't even jump on top of this farm. What am I like? But I think we should be able to just AFK. Seriously, come on, scaffolding. What's your deal? I think we should be able to AFK at this farm a little bit. And almost jumped in the wither roses then, just to wrap up this video. I think we should be able to AFK out this farm a little while and get all the ghast tears I need. And the reason I need ghast tears in the first place is because I want to use them to make end crystals, to do some blast mining and building some of the tunnel that we started ages and ages ago for the piston bolt that's going to lead out to and from the ski resort from spawn. So... yeah, I kind of want a lot of ghast tears for that. It's just going to make blowing up that section of the cave a little bit easier and save me a lot more time spent mining, because my time spent mining is better spent mining, I don't know, obsidian in the end or something like that. But I think, short though this episode has been, that is where we're going to wrap up this episode today. This farm is actually really quite simple to build. All you need is a usual hopper minecart track, this formation of glowstone, netherrack, and wither roses, and an adequate space for the ghast to spawn inside. 5x5x4 is the space they need, and you can actually do it with a fairly minimal glass ceiling, as you can see. So that's going to be it for this episode. Oh, I should probably step out of the scaffolding this way. There we go. That's going to be it for this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. Thank you folks so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like on this episode if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.